In the creatives as well, I just mentioned that we launched a $500 million, we did last year, still underutilized. But the creatives is also not just about financing, as I mentioned earlier. We're actually trying to fill the gaps around not just financing, but skills, gaps, like market information gap, trade and market information, as well as policy issues. Intellectual property is huge. The infringement of intellectual property is huge in the creative industries. We just returned from last week, we were in Portugal. One of the things that we're doing at the Portugal Fashion Show is we went with 20 African fashion designers, and the idea was to showcase them on the Portugal Fashion Show and expose them to brands and markets abroad. So it's not just about financing, I wanted to say. If I just moved quickly to the facilitation initiatives that we have, I'll talk about the Africa Trade Gateway, which is, you talked about PAPS. PAPS is our flagship, which is a payment system that will allow a Nigerian exporter to receive Nigerian naira. And if we were importing from Zambia, we'll receive Zambia, and the Zambian importer will receive Zambian kwacha. Will pay Zambian kwacha, while the Nigerian, it deals with the foreign currency cost of trade. It also deals with informality, of trade. Mansa, the KYC repository, is another one that will help us expand our trade and correspondent banking services dealing with the issues of KYC and the risking and withdrawal of capital and correspondent banking services that we've been seeing with international banks. The trade information portal and the trade regulations portal are to provide market information, trade and market information, just like the trade fair is doing as well. We're also working on the harmonization of standards. We will not deal with issues if we don't deal with standards of our products. In fact, one of the trainings that we'll give at the trade fair is around standards. But we're working with the African Organization for Standardization, ASO. We're working with them, we developed an Africa quality policy. That Africa quality is supposed to serve as guide, for national standards organizations to adopt them as, so that we have a uniform and harmonized standards. In the area of automotive sector, we've harmonized about 43 standards. In pharmaceuticals, because of COVID and pharmaceutical and medical devices, we've done about 121 standards. But Dr. Lombi also talked about the Africa Quality Assurance Center, where our flagship is at the Chashagamo Exchange. We're piloting that, I'm sure construction will be done by the first quarter of next year.
Yes. If I may just jump in, there is something you haven't spoken about, and I know it's a big focus of this year's trade fair, and that is the youth startups.
Yes.
Can you just speak briefly to that before I go to this?
That tells me you want me to round up. But that's fair enough, so that I don't dominate the conversation. Let me speak about the trade fair.
Sure.
So the trade fair you mentioned has several verticals. There's a trade fair, there's a conference, there's an exhibition. But as I tell people, that's not an end in itself. And that's why I bother to talk about the financing. Somebody just asked me, there's so much, it's expensive to go to Durban. I said, it's more expensive to lose out on the opportunity. So we have that. We want the trade fair to be the go-to place for the automotive, the go-to show for the creatives. In fact, the creatives will be every year, not every 2 years. So after this year, on the sidelines of the trade fair, we'll have a car next weekend, the year that the trade fair is not holding. We also have the youth startup program. The only way I can address, there was also a question from a youth to me earlier during the break time, I can address the issue of the youth, is a gentleman, happens to be in Nigeria, and his name is Ndubisi Eze. He came under the Tony Elmelo Foundation. We working with that foundation, we sponsored 30 youths to the IATF in 2018. Ndubisi's testament is that every day of that trade fair, he was inundated with visitors. He's into aerial robotics. He tells us that in 2019, he entered 2019 with a program or a project from the Singaporean government where he's now building drones for agricultural purposes.
Wow.
That's a fundamental
I think that deserves an applause. Absolutely.
You know, so that's what the youths can do when they have the ideas. The trade fair provides a platform to incubate, to get them trained, and to expose them to market opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And there's no doubt you can go on and on because there's so much about in terms of the impact of the Afrexim Bank and, of course, more specifically, the IATF initiative. But then, I want to go to the other panelists. But before I do, I wanted all the panelists to be seated before I introduce them all. I was just hoping we can save some time so we could get started. But no doubt, all she has said has been very useful. But I'll just quickly introduce all the panelists. I know it's a bit awkward, but still help. First, I would like, of course, we all know Kanayo Awani, the Managing Director of the Intra-Africa Trade Initiative, not just the Fair Initiative. Then we have Mr. Kange, he's the General Manager, Large Enterprises at the Bank of Industry. Leo, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, please, you can put your hands together. I'll just run through very quickly so we can save some time. And sitting next to Leo, we have Olivia Onyemaobi, who is the founder of Paddock Creations. She's doing an exceptional work. You'll hear more about it. A round of applause for her. We have Mr. Ken Etete. He's the Managing Director and CEO of Century Group Nigeria. They're doing what's happening to my a lot relating to oil services, and you'll hear more about that and the value chain and the opportunities that are opening up across Africa. Thank you so much for the applause. We also have the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Agriculture, Dr. Chinyere Almona, also joining us. Thank you so much. All right, I don't know what's happening to my audio, guys. Fixed. We also have Chief Diana Chen, the Chairman, Choice International Group, also known as GAC Motors. So clearly she'll be giving us some perspective, automotive. And then we have, and I'm going to make a special request for her later on, but I'll save that for later, Ms. Chioma Ude, the founder and convener of the African International Film Festival. It's a pleasure to have you. Not least, sitting to the far right is the president of the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, Engineer Mansour Ahmed. So thank you again to all my panelists. And it's a tough choice to know where to go first, but I think I would go to Olivia. Olivia, and I think I'm coming to you because you attended the last IATF, so you have a story to tell around that. But beyond that, can you just tell us about how you are exploring the opportunities under the African Common area?
Okay, so I run a company that makes reusable sanitary pads as a sustainable solution for girls and women. Before the Inter-African Trade Fair in 2018, okay, so I need to say a big thank you to Tony Elumelu Foundation and the Afrexim because it was an all-expense-paid trip for us attending. So I was with Ndobisi. So before the Inter-African Trade Fair, we were only having supplies across 11 African countries. But right there at the IATF, we made connections that have pulled us up to 18 African countries.
Wow.
Yeah. So many people from South Africa.
How many?
We were supplying 11 African countries.
11?
Yes.
Then 18.
Yes, we got up to 18. But most importantly, the countries that were able to connect through the trade fair became so, the supply, the orders from them became so loud that we had to increase our staff strength from 93 to 203.
Wow,
so
very good.
It's something that you cannot afford to miss. I had people from South Africa saying, we have been looking for your product. I don't know you're here. People from Botswana, Namibia, it was crazy. Like, after the trade fair, we had to, keep scaling up our production, to meet up with demand. And currently, that purchase orders have led us into setting up another production unit in the Gambia.
So you're also in.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we are manufacturing in the Gambia
That's a
now.
wonderful story.
So it's something you can afford to miss. The connections, the people that you meet, the network, it's
Right.
really amazing. You can't afford to miss it. I benefited from it, and I'm testifying now.
Thank you very much. So
Wonderful.
you're all witnesses, clear evidence of the value of the trade fair. So if you haven't booked your flights, and they've also already, His Excellency has mentioned, visas not a problem. So please make your plans to be there. But coming back to you, Olivia, let's now talk about your experience, trading across Africa, because that's what Intra-Africa Trade Fair is trying to promote, and the Africa Common Free Trade Area as well. So can you just speak to the early learnings and the opportunities you're seeing?
Yeah, there are really a lot of opportunities, but I want to focus more about the challenges.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's really very difficult for me to send to some Western African countries than to send to Canada. I can easily send products to Canada, to the US, to the UK.
So you're also exporting out of Africa right now?
Yes, we also export out of Africa. So, but it's easier for us sending to those other countries than sending to African, countries. Like sometimes you find challenges with your logistics. You don't have flights going to the route that you need to go, and then sometimes the cost of dispatching these products become more expensive than the cost of the product. Like I got one of our distributors in South Africa saying like, I can't imagine buying this product at 1.2 and I spent 1.8 to get them in South Africa. So these are some of the challenges that make it a little bit difficult. We would have been able to take over Africa because of the demand coming in, but when you look at the cost of logistics, sometimes they are really on the high side.
Right.
But on the opportunities, I think it's a great one for us to invest in, because I can imagine pulling over 200 youths out of the streets. We've been able to reduce the number of people that would have jumped your fence to come and steal in your house. But I've been able to reduce the laziness, that people would be on their bed when their mates are working. So having this expansion has really created an opportunity for us to invest in our human capital in form of job creation, in form of creating access for the girls having sanitary pads on a monthly basis, reducing exposure to infections.
Right.
So that's really amazing.
First of all, we have to congratulate her for the impact of what she's doing on people, girls across the continent. Thank you so much for that. Leo, you can just follow on and just give us the experience of the Bank of Industry in terms of supporting SMEs who are looking to do business across Africa. What are your learnings?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you mentioned, SMEs for us are the bread and butter of any economy, especially in Nigeria. At the last count, we had about 41.5 million SMEs in Nigeria. That's based on estimate by SMIDA. These SMEs represent about 96% of all the businesses that are operating in Nigeria. They contribute about 49% to our GDP, and they are 86% of employment is what they provide. So you can see that this is a very, very important segment.
Sure.
And Bank of Industry has focused heavily on that segment because we believe that that is the key to industrializing and growing the economy of Nigeria. Why do we believe that? Imagine if you have 49.5 million, you support those SMEs. Let's say only about 10% of them. You support them to be able to employ one more person. That's about 4 million jobs right there, So Bank of Industry believes that this sector needs to be heavily supported, and we have deployed all our resources to ensure that we do that.
Right.
The intra-Africa trade is a unique opportunity. which we feel that our SMEs are well positioned to actually take advantage of it. We have provided, how do we support them? We provide what is called patient capital, money that is available for up to 7, 8, 10 years, which in this market is very hard to find. You know, the commercial banks, unfortunately, it's not their fault, but if you look at their the deposit maturity of the commercial banks is about 60 days, 80 days, maybe 1 year. So when you're talking about investing in building a factory or building a business, you need long-term financing to make it work. You also need the finance cost-effective, to be low enough to make it affordable. On average, interest rate in this market is about 21%, sometimes 25%. For SMEs, it's even worse because banks will not lend to them because of risk.
Right.
They believe that they are high risk, which is quite true, you know. But the challenge here is to be able to provide financing to them at an affordable rate. And that is another thing that Bank of Industry is able to do. We provide financing. Right now, our interest rates are 8% for SMEs. Because of COVID-19, actually our interest rates were about 10% for term loans, but because of COVID-19, we had to bring it down to 8% to ensure that they have access to this funding. And we have also reduced or managed our collateral requirement to make the funding available at good terms, so that those who are really serious in doing business can actually have access to that. The other aspect of it is also capacity building, because it's not just money is not the only challenge. Capacity building, being able to grow your business, change your business model as your business is growing. Corporate governance, for instance, is very key. When you are an SME, you start initially, you are the chairman, you are the chief executive, you are the accountant, you are all of these. But as you begin to grow, there's need to change that business model and begin to put structures.
Sure.
So that what they say about SMEs that they usually will not survive beyond 5 years or 3 years does not happen, you know?
Yeah.
So those are some of the things. And then the other aspect of it is also what we call advocacy, because we implement government policy with respect to industry. So as we finance and provide financing to the SMEs and to the rest of industry, we recognize what the challenges are, like infrastructure, challenges at the ports and all of that. We provide that feedback to government. Government takes that and uses that to make some policy changes and all of that.
Right.
So these are the kind of ways that Bank of Industry supports SMEs.
But can you speak?
Over the last 5,
Sorry?
I'm going there.
Okay.
I was just going there.
Okay, please.
Yeah. So with the intra-Africa trade coming in and everything, we believe that our SMEs are well positioned to take advantage of that. So what we're doing is not just the financing or the advocacy and the capacity building, but we are also supporting them to export their products as well. You know, and during the last intra-Africa trade in 2018, working with NEPC, we supported over 150 SMEs to Egypt, to Cairo. We took them there, took care of all the expenses and everything. They brought their goods and everything, and they were able to close, just like you were saying, phenomenal transactions. You know, and that showed us one thing, that our SMEs can compete anywhere on the continent. They can. All they need is that chance. And
Right.
that is what Bank of Industry is working to do for them. Over the last 6 years, we have disbursed over ₦1 trillion to support industry in Nigeria. And
I think that deserves an applause. ₦1 trillion.
Yes, over ₦1 trillion
Wonderful.
to about 2.5 million industries and customers in the country today. And that has created about 7 million jobs within the country. So this is what Bank of Industry is doing. So one thing I can tell you is that, please, We are an SME, whether you are an SME, a micro enterprise, or a large enterprise, you are interested in coming to Durban, we encourage you to please do that, because the 150 that we took, they got a lot of transactions. They came back. They said, oh, we have all these transactions. We don't have the capacity. We said, okay, we will finance you. We'll provide the financing to you to increase the capacity. So this is what Bank of Industry is able to do.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Useful insight into what you're doing, no doubt. Okay, so let's now move, if you like, to the more heavy lifters, the larger businesses now. So I'll first of all go to Chief Diana Chen. So you can share your experience as an automotive sector investor and bring it into the context of our conversation around the African Common Free Trade Area, intra-Africa trade specifically, and the value chains that we can really begin to organize across Africa. How your business, for example, can plug into that with manufacturers across the continent.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chief Diana Chen. I'm the chairman of Trust International Group. We had investment in Nigeria in the last 6 or 7 years. So JAC Motor is one of our investment projects. We just get a partnership with Lagos State government to build the JAC Motor assembly plant in Lagos. But I just read some statistics on the report the organizer provided to me last night, and I had something worried about want to share here. That South Africa in 2019 produced more than 600,000 new cars. Morocco produced more than 340,000. Egypt produced 97,000. But in Nigeria, 2019, I don't think the total new car sell more than 30,000. So as a manufacturer here, and you have the opportunity of the EFTA, that's a risk and challenge I should face from South Africa and Morocco. I cannot develop value chain in Nigeria. I would prefer go to invest in South Africa or Morocco. Right? Am I right? Yes. So that's I'm little bit pity that I didn't see the Minister of Trade and Investment here. Otherwise, I will talk to him. If you don't give the really federal government policy change, that you need to stop those second-hand car imports. At least you should start from the age second-hand car. If you cannot start immediately, you need to have this timetable to freeze out the second-hand car. You cannot use mouth say, okay, we encourage the new automobile assembly investment in Nigeria, but you don't have real federal government policy to develop and create the market for the industry. It's not fair for the investor. So I must say this is my first worry on the competition between the countries of Africa. Yeah. And secondly, we look at the opportunity of EFTA. Everybody knows, and also as the moderator introduced that, with the EFTA agreement, we suppose African continental become the fifth
largest economy in the world.
Largest economy in the world, right?
Sure.
So we will bring all the investment opportunity to here. But when you look at the property rates in the continents, this opportunity are related to the population challenge also. There is a big population challenge in the continent that we don't have good education system across all Africa. If the people didn't get well trained, especially the skill trained, there's no sustainable vocational school provide the training, then this number 5th economic zone cannot achieve. So I think the education system are very key for these actors' opportunity to look at it. And from the experience, because I'm just be lucky that experience the last 14 years with the way of China grow from poverty to #1 manufacturing area in the world, in China. China can nowadays become the biggest market and also the production area, because we start from the manufacturers area when we partnership with the world-class company.
Right.
At the same time, our government also invests a lot to build the education system, covering from the basic education to the vocational education system. So I think the education system, especially in Nigeria, the biggest African country, suppose really look into this change. We need the people have well trained. When the opportunity of manufacture come in, then the investor can employ good staff. My company come here in the last 7 years. We had around 20 or 30 permanents, the experts, running more than 400 Nigerian employees. But we found one of our major expenses that we spend a lot of money and time to give the training to the staff. So one of the programs we are doing in our company that we are trying to use Saturday as the training day to provide different training skills to our employees. Start from the office, Excel training, computer training. Start from the service, the working attitude, marketing, sales training, and also in the workshop, we also provide the on deck, that kind of mechanical training. So Saturday, it is our 1 day training across different business sector. Automobile industry in China are one of the 2 very important industries to make China economy become one of the strong economy in the world. The automobile industry and real estate, these 2 industries. Because these 2 industries can easily to carry the GDP growth for the country. When you have the continued and significant GDP growth, automatically you are building the confidence of the market. So economy is the matter of confidence, nothing else. Nothing else. So as a government, we talk about governmentship. If a strong government, you can build a confidence to the people, the economy will grow. And also, the economic growth with the confident GDP growth, then the market will boom. When the market boom, the people will do their job. What I see in Nigeria that we talk about the GDP growth rate, 1.7, 1.3, something like that. If our government of Nigeria put their attention from oil industry into automobile industry, just one industry, then your GDP growth will be more than 5%, 6%. Because when you look at the South Africa GDP, only automobile industry already taken 7.9% their GDP in South Africa, right? So Nigeria, if we just focus from the federal government to the state government, do their determination, just encourage you use the new car, encourage the market, your GDP will grow more than at least 5%. And this 5% completely will change the confidence of the whole Nigerian people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution. Engineer, I see you are about to pick up the microphone. So you're still within, if you like, the heavy hitters, the manufacturers. We're talking about industrialization in Africa, for example. So tell us your perspective on the Africa Common Free Trade Area and how Nigeria can make the most of it.
Let me start by borrowing somebody
Yeah.
No, it's fine.
Okay, this
Okay.
is working.
Is it working?
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
I'm going to build on two comments, one from Chief Chen and the other from Olivia, because they actually, to me, summarize the key issues we're contending with. Olivia showed us in her presentation that when she focused on looking for opportunities without worrying about the challenges, she was able to find a way to address the challenges, to navigate around the challenges. Shen told us that China literally did the same. Looked at where are the key opportunities for growth for the Chinese economy, focus on that. I'm sure if you had talked to Chinese before that, there would be loads and loads of challenges that the Chinese set aside and focus on opportunities. So I think what we should be doing, yes, there will be challenges, whatever we want to do in terms with the economy or indeed with your polity. But challenges don't solve themselves. Challenges don't mitigate themselves. It's opportunities or doing something about opportunities that mitigates challenges, which is what we've seen from Olivia's example.
Right.
Yes, I represent the Manufacturer Association, but I also worked for a company that has done exactly the same. The Dangote Group, despite all the opportunities, despite all the challenges of operating in Nigeria, operating in Africa, trading across Africa, focused on what are the opportunities and actually did something about those opportunities. In the process, they navigated around challenges. So I think if there is one thing that we should keep in mind as we go to Durban at the IATF, we should be going to Durban to identify, to look for opportunities. Opportunities in terms of how do you solve the challenges that have kept your business small. Opportunities in terms of how do you circumvent the problem of the value chain that we are fixing. Opportunities in terms of how do you meet the demand, the quality demands of the wider market. And this is why I think the AFCFTA is, in fact, to me, the key to unlocking the African challenge, which is our tendency to always focus on challenges and then do nothing, because you are overwhelmed by challenges and therefore continue to stay where you are. I think when you focus on opportunities, they are now able to see there's something I can do about this, and it will help me mitigate the challenge. Now, this is why, if you look at what my friend Shegun has been doing over the past year, he's been taking a lot of Nigerian businesses to various trade fairs. The last IATF, yes, there was a significant Nigerian presence, but it was largely people, either young people, and I think this is what I want to point out with regards to young people. They see opportunity, they see challenges as well as we do, but I think they also focus only on the opportunities and therefore rise to the occasion and find ways around their challenges. Secondly, we have focused on the basic African approach to trade, minerals, raw materials, agri-materials, ethnic goods and services that we have always traded in, whether within Africa or across Africa. But to me, the African economy will change when we begin to scale up the production of goods and services that we demand that we consume on a continuum basis. And today that can only come from manufactured goods and services. I'm talking about manufacturing first. We will come to other services, which of course, if you look at the Nigerian situation, the financial services sector has done pretty well. You see Nigerian banks all over the African continent. The film business has done extremely well. The, if you like, entertainment business has done well. The creative industry has done well. But it's our manufacturing sector that seems to have failed to move forward because we are not able to get these small SMEs that are producing shea nut butter to scale up to produce the goods and services that those who come to buy shea nut butter actually produce. We must scale up the capacity of MFEs that are processing cocoa with the Bank of Industry support to actually move up to produce chocolate, because that's where the value is.
Right.
Our concern must be how do we scale up the value of what we're doing? Because it's only by scaling up and creating value that we can expand trade. We've been complaining about African participation in global trade, still literally inexistent. 2%, 3%, Kanayo? We must be able to scale that up significantly in order to create the kind of economic base that will support the growth of the infrastructure we are complaining about. Because to me, these things are linked up. If you have the demand for cross-country infrastructure, because you have large companies and small companies, but that are able to move goods across, there will be opportunities for infrastructure to grow. Or the challenge of infrastructure will be mitigated by the pressure for the demand of the trade, of the growth of the trade and volume. So these things need to be really, I think this is what IATF should do for us. And this is why the Manufacturing Association is committed this year to take a large number of manufacturing outfits to Durban across the various sectors of our manufacturing industry. We have 10 sectors, and we intend, and I promised Kanayo, that we'll take at least not less than 2, not necessarily large, medium to large manufacturers from each of those sectors, so that these businesses can see what are the opportunities we're talking about. The automotive sector, for instance. Yes, Chen has highlighted that while we're producing 30,000 cars a month, Egypt is doing 90,000, Morocco is doing 300,000, probably South Africa is doing how many? 500,000 or more? Or 600,000? Now, doesn't that mean there is an opportunity for Nigerian automotive manufacturers to scale up their operation? So, I'm talking about SMEs because I think this is also very critical. I hear Bank of Industry, they have been doing very well supporting SMEs. But I think this is where we can now say, by looking at opportunities for SMEs to grow and scale up, we will now have to now identify the challenge of that faces our SMEs. 3 major challenges. I'm sure there are more. But first of all, scale. If you are producing tomato puree or whatever, nice leather shoes, but you're doing so at low scale, the chances are, given the costs we have talked about, you cannot be competitive. So what can government do? And this is where institutions like the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, the Bank of Industry, and all the government institutions should now be, what can we do to these SMEs to enable them to scale up, to give them a leg up, to give them the opportunity to be competitive. And it is by looking at these that we can now identify perhaps the priorities for government as well as the priorities for institutions that support industrial and business growth. And I believe that one of the benefits I see of the AFCFTA is indeed that across the continent, we are going to find that these challenges are common, opportunities are broader than we expect, and therefore, if our governments work together with the support of institutions like Afro-Exim Bank, I think it would be great. It would be easy to see how policies that Chen talked about will in fact make themselves almost inevitable. Because you cannot want your automotive industry to rise from 60,000 to 100,000 or 200,000, or indeed to what it should be, about 1 million, if you compare the relative sizes of our economies, and still maintain policies that keep them uncompetitive.
Right.
So these are some of the things. Finally, I think the private sector itself, particularly in my context, the manufacturers itself, need to open up their eyes and see their competitors as well as their potential partners, and this is what IATF will also provide an opportunity for.
Sure.
Maybe there are opportunities for partnership and to build value chains across the continent that will enable both Chen as well as those producing auto parts from across other countries to work together to scale up the entire thing and to be able to keep the cost of production down. I think the opportunity to work together across different countries and different regimes and different industries within Africa is really very, very enormous.
Right.
And this is why our association, the Manufacturing Association, at the last IATF in Egypt, discussed with AU, the African Union, and indeed African Bank, the possibility of creating a Pan-African Manufacturers Association. I'm very glad to say that this has now been registered. The platform has been created, and our hope is that at Durban, we're going to bring some of these operators together across different sectors of the economy to say, look, where are the opportunities for partnership and collaboration to grow our businesses to scale, to improve our competitiveness, and to reduce our costs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Engineer, thank you so much for those comments. I'd like to now go to the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Chinyere Amona, can you just help us appreciate, as a trade group, how you are supporting more businesses, especially in the context of ECOWAS? Because I think that is the first opportunity for most businesses that are operating from Nigeria. Can you just speak to the delivery model, so to speak, that you are providing for your members?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the organizers of this event. Kanayo, thanks for having us. This is a very vital conversation to have at this time. To think about how we support SMEs, let's look at the context of the value that we're trying to get them to take advantage of. So a World Bank report that provides some information on the economic and distributional effect of the AFCFTA indicates that Nigeria was one of the biggest beneficiaries of this agreement. And then they add that just by implementing the AFCFTA appropriately, that businesses will reduce the time spent in custom by about 31.8% and reduce their trade cost by about 10%. Now that's huge. If you take it down to any business at all, that's significant. And in putting figures to it, they indicate that out of the $450 billion gain from the AFCFTA, about 292 billion relates to just removing the red tapes and improving interaction between the countries. So that tells us that one thing that needs to happen is to enable the SMEs to get in and flow their businesses and products and services into the rest of Africa. And I like the story that Olivia told. It brings it home to all of us what needs to happen to gain the benefits of all of these. And everyone, everything I have heard so far today, we all point to the same direction of what needs to happen. And when I think about intra-Africa trade, it saddens me, like Engineer Ahmed kind of alluded to, that intra-Africa trade is still so small. We all know what to do, so we've all said it here. But we all understand this cerebrally, but it's not happening. So it's still like about 2%. I think between 2015 and 2017, it was about 2%. Compared to America, compared to Asia, Asia is about 61%, and Europe is about 67%. That tells us that we have a huge gap to bridge. And SMEs, the BOI just told us the statistics for SMEs, how SMEs can drive the economy. So we need to support the SMEs. How can we all support the SMEs? It's to look at what they need to do. And the conversations we've had just on this panel tells us what some of the things. For instance, Olivia said after she went to IATF the last time, she knew that she had to increase her capacity for production. And BOI has told us that they can help increase capacity for production. So that's one thing that SMEs need to do, capacity improvement. We've also talked about capacity building in terms of skills, managerial skills. We've heard about corporate governance and the need for SMEs to be a bit more attractive. We've heard about standards. At the minimum, we have to be comparable to be competitive. And we can't, sometimes say, oh, it's Nigerian products. The fact that it's Nigerian products is not an excuse for it to be low quality. We have to get to the point where we are producing qualities, goods and services that are, in line with certain standards. And so that's some of the challenges that SMEs face. So at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we realize that SMEs are the bedrock of all that we do, and we need to help them, we need to promote their goods, their services. So we work with agencies, we work with ECOWAS in terms of providing information. One thing that is lacking is information, the right information. For instance, the story that Olivia told should be on the billboard. We should hear more about such things. We should create case studies of the successes that we have and be able to share it widely. Then other SMEs will know that, oh, there is hope for, to get something from this arrangement. If they don't hear anything, it appears that it's not working. At a conference I spoke at once, somebody said, but we've heard that the AFCFTA have taken off, we haven't seen anything. So but something is happening, but they're not seeing something. So communication and information relay is so important. And for some of the webinars that we hold, partnering with NEFC, partnering with the ECOWAS, is just to be able to get information across the organized private sector about what is happening, about the